What are you looking forward to most coming out to Kansas this weekend?
I'm looking forward to all manufacturers being equally competitive across the board. Hoping that Chevy is going to be able to bring their A game this week. Hendrick has won the last 2 races here, so they're looking to three-peat. If they're going to do it at any track, I think this is one of the ones to do it at. We saw last week Kyle Larson had a dominant car at Bristol, and it was nice to see Larson out there leading some laps. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him doing the same thing out here this weekend.
I'm going to disagree with you a little bit. I think Kyle Larson, his background in sprint cars and dirt racing, he outperformed expectations because Chase Elliott was top 15, top 20. Never saw the top 10 unless it was built on a strategy. William Byron was running 35th the entire fucking race. I think Kyle Larson definitely set high expectations on himself. He wanted to perform well at Bristol. That car was 10th place. Throw Ross Chastain, throw Joey Logano, throw Denny Hamlin in there. They're going to be running at most 10th place because Kyle Larson is an extremely talented driver. He's fully capable of carrying that car, and we've seen that in past. He was outperforming, and we saw that again at Bristol, and I'm still not confident in the Chevys right now.
Pass 19 to the inside. They wash up at the line. Oh, Austin Hill out of nowhere. It's going to win. Oh, my goodness. Coming to the line. Ryan Blaney's getting Bubba's in the wall. He's finding his spot for this win. Chase Elliott comes through on the inside. Oh, my goodness. Chase Elliott.
Hey, welcome back to the Checkered Flag Podcast. I'm co-host Drew, joined here with Nate. We'll be talking a little bit about the pre-race before we get over to Kansas Speedway coming up on Sunday. Nate, I know we went out to this race back in fall, got some really exciting storylines between Zane Smith going on the wall for a ride, looking like Casey Kane back in Bristol in 08, and then, of course, you had that insane overtime finish with Chase Elliott taking the dub. But, speaking of the Chevys and Chase Elliott in general, Hendrick's going to be looking to get a three-peat coming up at Kansas, so what are you looking forward to most coming out to Kansas this weekend?
Yeah, I think I'm looking forward to all manufacturers being being equally competitive across the board. I'm hoping that Chevy is going to be able to bring their A game this week. As you had mentioned, Hendrick has won the last 2 races here, so they're looking to three-peat. So, if they're going to do it at any track, I think this is one of the ones to do it at. We saw last week Kyle Larson had a dominant car at Bristol. If it wasn't for Ryan Blaney's pit stops, I think Ryan Blaney probably had the better car. But, Hendrick did produce a good car for that race, and it was nice to see Larson out there leading some laps. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him doing the same thing out here this weekend. So, Larson's done well. Elliott's done well. Byron's done well. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but I think they're definitely going to come out pretty hot.
You forgot about Bowman, dog.
I guess, yeah. He's easy to forget about.
he'll be in the bathroom while everyone else is out partying. So
yeah.
But I'm gonna kind of disagree with you a little bit. I think Kyle Larson, his background in sprint cars and dirt racing, he outperformed expectations because Chase Elliott was top 15, top 20. He had no speed at all. Never saw the top 10 unless it was built on a strategy, and we saw that in stage 1 when he didn't pit and everyone else took tires. William Byron was running 35th the entire fucking race. So I think Kyle Larson definitely set high expectations on himself. He wanted to perform well at Bristol. That car was 10th place. Throw Ross Chastain, throw Joey Logano, throw Denny Hamlin in there. They're going to be running, at most 10th place because Kyle Larson is an extremely talented driver. He's fully capable of carrying that car, and we've seen that in past with Chip Ganassi, in the beginning of his career. Like, he took that car to win at Michigan. He took that car to win at Auto Club. Like, he was outperforming, and we saw that again at Bristol, and I'm still not confident in the Chevys right now. I didn't really like their speed this weekend or last weekend at Bristol. Granted, they do have a much better 1.5 mile package than they do at any of the other racetracks, but I'm still not bought in on the bow ties just yet, and it's going to take a lot. I think they're still learning, but we're going into race 8 into the season, and we still haven't seen much progress out of Chevy. We haven't seen the winning speed that we saw last year towards the beginning when we had Larson dominating, winning 3 races, and so on and so forth. So I still think that Kyle Larson, William Byron, Chase Elliott, they're still going to perform well. They're still going to put up the numbers and be in the positions we expect them to, but I don't think that they're going to have the winning speed that we've seen out of them in the past Kansas races. But Toyota's, on the other hand, I'm really liking them Yoders, I'll tell you that much. But you saw last year Denny Hamlin led 160 laps, Bubba Wallace led laps. Christopher Bell led laps. And, without Chase Elliott kind of stealing that overtime show, you had 5 Toyotas in the top 6. So I think Toyota's going to dominate this weekend. And I think that going ahead into Kansas, we're likely going to see a Toyota dominant race.
Yeah, I mean, with the dominance we've seen across the board from Toyotas this season, I would not be surprised at all to see Toyota dominate this race. It seems like the last couple of races we've had here at Kansas, it's been like the leader dominates for most of the race, whereas maybe the back couple guys are a little bit more competitive. You're going to see those guys from, 2 and back a lot more competitive than the guy who's out there up front in the clean air. It seems like once that clean air starts to get dirty, when they start getting into lap traffic, that's when the leader starts to slow down. Everybody can kind of catch up. But yeah, I do see that Toyota's they've got the best overall package right now, and I don't think there's any denying that. And they performed well here last year in the fall. I mean, the other thing that I was going to say, though, is I think the Fords might have a chance to, get some good finishes here this week. I mean, we saw a lot of Fords finishing in the top 10. Last year, we got 6 Fords finishing in the top 10 in the spring race last year. So I don't think, we can't really write them off either. They've brought a good package here in the spring, so maybe they'll do the same thing this spring.
Yeah, and I'm really liking the steps that RFK has taken this year. I think that RFK is gonna give the Toyotas a run for their money this weekend. 2024, obviously Chris Buescher lost to Kyle Larson by 1/1000th of a second, the closest finish in NASCAR history. I thought Buescher had it at first, but, we know the speed that Buescher can provide at any one of our 1.5 mile tracks. And, Keselowski and Preece already off to a better start than they were last year. So I'm liking the position that RFK is in right now. I just think that if they break out and finally get a win, that's going to drive some momentum on their team like it did for 23XI. Because, going off that Daytona 500 win, you got the Atlanta win, then the Coda win, then Darlington. RFK almost won Darlington. That's basically 1.5 miles. So with us going into our 3rd 1.5 miles this year, Vegas being the first one, Kansas going into the next one, I'm definitely liking where Ford's at, and I think Penske and RFK are going to give Toyotas a run for their money. But Nate, are you sick, man? I feel like there's a little bit of monotone in your voice right now. You got a scratchy throat up in the Midwest?
Yeah, weather's been changing up here, so I got, a little bit of a scratchy throat. Been trying to pop some ibuprofen, really trying to get myself a little bit better for the weekend. But yeah, it's been a little bit rough. Voice is sounding a little bit raspy, but, feel like that guy on TikTok that's like, God, I have Jack Links.
Jack Links, gotta have Jack Links. Gummy bears, some kitty, some Emmy.
Gotta have Jack. I've never seen that. No,
You haven't seen
definitely
that? Uncle
I have
Rob?
to look it up.
Yeah.
I have to look it up. I don't go on TikTok anymore. I'm an Instagram Reels kind of guy.
Yeah.
But anyways, a little off topic, but Kansas, in the past, I think has provided some of the best 1.5 mile racing on the schedule. I think that Charlotte is a good second place contender, right there with them. But Kansas has been and will be one of the most entertaining 1.5 miles. But we'll see with Chicagoland coming up in the 4th of July. Very similar style track. But, how are we liking the racing product? I know that we're not going to get the horsepower package that we've seen at the short tracks, the road courses, the intermediates. So, going into this race, are we going to see the same exact racing that we saw last fall and last spring, or are we going to see any changes?
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll see some changes to the racing package because we got 750 at this racetrack, right? Or is it no, we're dropping back down. So I mean, I think if that's the case, then just with this racetrack, I think to be able to have a little bit more grip, it's going to provide a different style racing than what we've seen at some of these other intermediates with the 750 horsepower package. And I think like we had talked about before, I don't think that necessarily the racing has been much different. Granted, whatever horsepower package that they're giving these cars. I think we're still seeing the same kind of style of finishes that we saw, with the lesser horsepower as we're seeing with the more horsepower. So I think there is some differences. I think at Bristol it showed a little bit more character because guys are getting a lot more loose with the less downforce. I just think that these 1.5 miles are too long a racetracks to be able to get so loose because you're going on much longer runs with more speed. That doesn't allow you to get as loose because you're not turning as much. But yeah, I mean, I think it just depends. I think I saw something on Twitter the other day where some guy was just like, it's just time for the Gen 8 car. It's time to get out of this Gen 7 car. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just a matter of, NASCAR's got to figure something out. And I mean, might be good to just kind of have a little bit of change to see maybe like what it does different compared to what we saw at Phoenix and Vegas.
Yeah, and I will say back when we had the Gen 6 car, 2014 is the year that really stands out to me. They had 900 horsepower on the mile and a halves, and we saw some incredible racing. I'll look back to that Chicagoland race between Jeff Gordon, Kyle Larson, Brad Keselowski, and Kevin Harvick. Some of the best mile and a half racing I've seen on a long green flag run. I haven't seen much since this Gen 7 car has been introduced. I've been seeing, restarts that provide good racing for a couple of laps and, overtime finishes, that's super entertaining. But during the race, it's just a snoozer. Everyone's just freight train, follow the leader, riding the top line. And one thing I did want to point out, too, is the fact that the fastest lap in trucks was quicker than the fastest lap in Cup. Granted, the truck race had more grip. It was a night race, less laps. Obviously, two completely different cars. But the fact is, you have the third highest series that provides the fastest lap, the loosest cars. That's a better racing product. I don't know why they can't implement that into the Cup Series, considering that that's something that fans want to see. They want to see passing. They want to see cars get loose, see how talented these drivers are in handling the cars when half the time the cars are driving themselves. So I'm really hoping that we see a little bit different racing out of Kansas. With this new nose, I don't know how Chevy's going to perform. Hopefully, this car is easier to pass. It's not just a freight train. People have to spend 10 to 15 laps passing each other, but we'll see. I mean, got some things to look forward to this weekend. Main storyline is going to be how are the Chevys going to do, and that's definitely something we'll be looking at closely and intently. But, speaking of Kansas this weekend, I know we typically pick our driver for the week. I'm starting to run out of Toyotas, so trying to figure out who I should pick. I have to pull up the list. Have I picked Chris Buescher yet? Because that's going to be my pick this weekend.
No, I think I picked him week 1. I don't think you've taken him yet.
Yeah, so I'm going to take Chris Buescher. And the reason why I say that is look at his past finishes. I think Kansas is one of his best tracks. He typically runs top 10, top 5 there. As long as he has the speed on Saturday, he's going to be there on Sunday to be in contention. But, I couldn't pick a Toyota, so I'm picking the best Ford that's going to perform. It's either going to be him or Blaney at the end of the day, but Buescher has shown flashes of speed this season, led a lot of laps at Darlington, has always been in contention in the top 10, top 5 at different racetracks, so really going to look forward to RFK and seeing what kind of package they bring this weekend. But who are you going for?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Bubba Wallace this week. I really liked the way he finished the last race there when we were there. I really think he really had a shot to win that race if it wasn't for Denny putting him in the wall. So I think if that doesn't happen, I think Bubba wins there last year, and I think he's got a good shot with this Toyota package that we've seen so far out of these guys. I mean, I kind of also want to pick Tyler Reddick, but I just feel like I'm saving that one at this point. But yeah, I think Bubba's gonna be the one that performs the best out of the Toyotas this week, just because he had that chance at the end there to be able to take the win. But yeah, just got unlucky with that door-to-door racing we saw. And then I was gonna talk about a little bit, sorry, about how we were talking last week, the little bit of a rule change that we're gonna make to the challenge. As far as like if from now on we pick a driver who wins, I made this up as Ty Gibbs was winning, so I can't we can't take the extra point for it this week or this past week. But I think from now on, if we pick a driver who ends up winning, just in order to keep people to give them a chance to come back or whatever, they're gonna get 2 points. Just because I feel like that'd be a little bit more fun, add a little more spice to the mix. So
Yeah. It's going to be fun for sure, and I think Bubba Wallace is a solid pick. I think he's going to outperform Buescher, but, all depends on, what they both bring. But it's going to be fun. I mean, we've still got plenty of racing left on the season. I still currently hold the lead, 4-3, barely edging out Nate over here. But I will say with, we didn't even bring up the fact that we were at Kansas last fall.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to highlight that a little bit. I work for NASCAR and ticket sales. Not sure if I've mentioned that on the podcast before, but one of my perks is I get free pit passes to go down in the infield and look at all the different stuff on pit road, the garages. And that was Nate's first race at a mile and a half. So he's already got high expectations considering the fact that we had an incredible overtime restart. We saw a car flip at a mile and a half. Unbelievable. So, it was a really awesome weekend. We're going to be doing the same exact thing in Charlotte later this October. So stay tuned for a special episode of that. It's going to be fun for sure that weekend, but Kansas was a blast, and I'm hoping that for people that are going this weekend, have an awesome time. But going into, some notable finishers from last week and then going into this week, I know we talked a little bit about power rankings, but who are we liking this weekend as our favorites to win?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think Kyle Larson's gonna have that pretty good package this year. He's gonna be one of my top guys, just from what we saw out of him last week. And going into this week, he obviously got the win here last spring. So I've got him up there in my rankings. Obviously got to put Bubba Wallace up there as well. Got him picked this week, so gonna throw him up there. Probably at number 2, just because I think Kyle Larson might have a little bit more of an edge on Bubba this week. So those are going to be my top 2 guys. I think rounding out, I think Chase Briscoe is going to be my number 3. He got some consistent good top 5 finishes here last year. So I think we're going to see the same thing out of him this year. Yeah, I think those are top 3. I don't know, trying to figure out the rest. Denny's going to be a 4. I think Denny dominated in the race in the fall last year. Did pretty well in the spring as well, from what I remember. Maybe not. I'm looking now. He finished pretty far back, but I think he wrecked out in the spring. Then I got Blaney, number 5, to round out my top 5. Obviously, he's been the dominant Ford, the only guy we'd consistently see in the top 5, top 10 out of all the Ford drivers we've seen so far this year. So he's going to round out my top 5.
Sure. I'm going to do things a little bit differently. I think I'm just going to go with best performing car based on manufacturer. So I'll just do a top 3 between Ford, Toyota, Chevy, just kind of some storylines to kind of highlight a little bit. I think that'll kind of be like a little cleaner setup, but you'll see the list right there where my finger's pointed of the 3 drivers I'm going to pick. But so start off with my Ford, obviously clear answer. Chris Buescher is going to be my pick. Chris Buescher, second place in 24, top 10, 25. He's always there. He's always in contention. He needs to break out. He needs to get more wins because we haven't seen flashes of winning speed out of Buescher since 2023 when he had that stretch where he won like 3 races in 4 weeks. So I'm really curious to see what RFK brings in terms of Priest, Keselowski, and Buescher, but I think Buescher is going to be the best performing Ford out of all 3 of them, and I think he's still going to outperform Blaney a little bit because Blaney didn't really show good speed at Kansas in the fall. I think he was good top 10 guy, but never had top 5 and winning speed that we typically see out of him week in, week out. So going to put Buescher as my top Ford. My top Toyota is going to be Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin obviously dominated the fall race. We know he won spring 24 while wrecking out Kyle Larson. He's always up there in contention at Kansas. I feel like that's one of his best tracks as of right now, but Denny Hamlin does have a lot of great tracks. But I know he's definitely going to be up front leading laps. All depends on how Chris Gale and, his pit crew perform on pit road and, how the cautions flies. But Denny Hamlin will be my number 1 Toyota, and then my number 1 Chevy. Hate to say it, but I'm going to pick Kyle Larson just because I saw how well he outperformed in Bristol. We know how talented Kyle Larson can be. We know how strong he is at Kansas. He's won 2 races in a row in the spring race. I'm looking for a 3-peat out of Larson. I think he's going to do it as long as Cliff Daniels and Chevy are able to actually give that man some fucking speed for once. But those will be my 3 picks right there. I mean, let us know in the comments if you guys are thinking anything differently, but I think we both have a solid roster of drivers that'll be performing this weekend. But not much else to talk about at Kansas. We do have some storylines coming up for Talladega next week. Going to kind of tune in a little bit to that towards next week when we actually get prepped for that weekend. But Kansas is just one of those kind of fillers on the schedule that we typically, enjoy watching. Perfect nap time to kind of, relax a little bit, especially during those first and second stages. But it's going to be a fun weekend. Really curious to see the mile and a half racing again. I didn't really like the picture that we saw out of Vegas. I'm really hoping that Kansas proves something else because it has been some of the most entertaining racing we've had on the schedule. But are there any final thoughts you got, Nate, about Kansas or anything that I missed?
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing just leading into this week, I think a storyline people should be keeping an eye out for is the Kyle Busch storyline. Seems like he's really getting frustrated in that RCR car. So, I mean, maybe I've heard some people have been listening in on his radio during the race last week. He was very frustrated, spun out Riley Herbst. So, I mean, like, that's I mean, what a full circle moment for Kyle Busch. I mean, he goes from being 2-time Cup Series champion to now he's spinning out Riley Herbst because of the drama they had on the racetrack. So I mean, like, not to throw a shot at Kyle Busch, but I'm just like, RCR's got to put that man in some better equipment because we saw in the trucks that he can still perform. I mean, he won a race in the trucks this just during this year so far, and then he had competitive speed where he was running up front last week at Bristol too. So I mean, I feel like RCR's just got to put that man in some better equipment because otherwise he's going to jump ship and go somewhere else next season.
Yeah, and I don't think he spun out Riley Herbst accidentally. It was on purpose. Riley Herbst did spin him out earlier in the race, so just an eye for an eye in that situation. But I mean, he's not happy with the pit crew. He's not happy with the crew chief. He's not happy with the car, the speed, the team. I mean, it's just all falling apart for that man right now. And I think ever since he kind of became a family man, his temper has dropped a little bit. Obviously with him being in a mediocre car, we're not getting as much footage on Kyle Busch as we do when he was normally winning races. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's happening behind closed doors. So, I'm hoping Kyle Busch, as much as I hate to say it, I want to see that man win. I want to see him succeed. I hated him and Joe Gibbs because of how dominant he was. Stole Jeff Gordon's final championship in 2015. Took that win away. But I mean, man, that guy just needs a break at this point. He just needs any type of flash to be top 10 speed, anything like that. Haven't seen anything this year minus the restrictor plates. So Kyle Busch, my thoughts and prayers to you.
Yeah.
Hopefully down the road you're in better equipment, maybe the 48 car. But I know with Kyle Busch being on the contract year, we may see some off-season moves and some silly season moves. So I'm going to be really curious to see. But that's pretty much the only storyline that we're going to follow along with all the racing. I know, not much else to say for the weekend. Thank you guys for tuning in today's episode of the Checkered Flag Podcast. As always, we do post on multiple social media platforms, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. Feel free to leave a like. Feel free to leave a comment on today's episode on your thoughts on Kansas and what you're looking forward to most. And as always, boogity, boogity, boogity. I'm not going to steal that from Nate. I'll let him take it away. Nate, any final words before we kick off?
Nope. Boogity, boogity, boogity.
Look at that, man. Even with a raspy voice, he's still able to get it off. All right. Peace out,
Jack
y'all.
Links.
See you next episode. Tag links. See you next episode.